We're very fortunate to have, I think, a very deep and coordinated and strategic partnership with Brandeis University and the Waltham Public Schools.
They tend to work around helping our students after-school programs, also developing different teacher training programs with our teachers here as well, how to better support our students.
From the time Drew was hired and came on board, Marya set up several meetings just to say, hey, let's talk about Waltham objectives. Let's talk about what everybody has as potential, and then let's talk about steps forward.
Brandeis doesn't come into conversation saying, this is what we will do for you. It's an attitude of what can we do for you.
They have a really strong teacher education program at Brandeis, and certainly our students benefit from that relationship in that there are additional adults who are supporting our students, but Brandeis students are benefiting too because they are getting the knowledge and skills that they need to become effective educators.
Just last week, my director asked me to observe an ESL teacher at the high school, and initially I was a little bit hesitant. I wasn't sure how I would do that, but then thinking back on the protocols that we used at Brandeis and some of the ways that we could focus the conversation and the debrief afterwards, I definitely felt more prepared to do that.
The Junior Brandeis Achievers Program has, that extracurricular kind of component to it. But for example, if we have a prosthetics club, and so for a student who has no idea what prosthetics are and has never had an opportunity to understand that, they're teaching them about what the purpose is and why, and then they're building it, and they're doing that in that time that they never have had that experience. They never would know where that could lead to.
Brandeis's involvement has been coming and talking to each of us, and they help us think of ways to put our stories out and our mother's stories out to the community. We kind of want to learn more, and we just feel like we're important when we're partnering with the college.
When Evan first became involved with the enrichment program, I felt hesitant because I didn't know who was going to be on the other side at Brandeis to receive him. But I would say after about the first 2 weeks, that all went away because his experiences there in those first 2 weeks made up for any hesitation that I had on my end.
It was a program where we could go to Brandeis and meet some tutors who would help us out with our homework. And all the while before that, we got to participate in activities and learn new things about the campus.
Dr. Levenson, members of her team in the teacher education program have been providing professional development for our educators, particularly around strategies that better support English language learners. And those things have received really positive feedback from our educators.
Marya is great. I mean, that's the first thing that right away comes to mind. In this program especially, we really looked at the human side of everybody, especially the students, and she really pushed us to look at that.
Every conversation with Marya begins with, what do you need? What do your students need? What can we do for you? To watch her go across her campus, like every student stopped to give her a hug. She checked in, asked them how they were doing, what were they up to, what's their next thing? And I've come to learn that's how she is. She's become somewhat of a mentor to me.
We are very fortunate to have so many different volunteers that are in the Waltham Public Schools, and I don't know how Lucas coordinates all of this, but somehow he manages to do all of that work and to do it exceptionally well. He's someone who I met really early on during my tenure as superintendent. He's always been very clear that he's willing to roll up his sleeves and do the hard work.
He knows people very well, enough to say, call this person, tell them I'm sending you. Not everyone can do that. It takes a special person who is personable, who has people's trust, and is very well respected. He has a beautiful style with students that he is hands off, and yet you know he's behind them 100%.
He was always willing to do something different, and if it took off, great. If it didn't, let's try something else.
Certainly as it relates to Anique, she gets a chance to work with Heather Manilides most closely, but I know that from feedback that I've heard from students that they've really appreciated having opportunities to see how scientists think and approach problems and hear about the journey that someone might take if they're interested in pursuing careers in STEM.
She came to me with a couple of ideas that I entertained and worked with a couple of my teachers to start a Waltham High School Science Pizza Talk.
Being able to participate in the Science Pizza Talks was one of the best experiences I've had. I got the chance to work with Anique, and she allowed me to reflect back in my life in terms of how I got interested into the sciences. By doing that, I inspired a lot of other students who realized that they wanted to do science or realized that they wanted to go to like law school or do engineering, but when you're a person of color, you don't see people of color in those fields. So seeing me being part of the sciences really inspired them.